My Lady and Chancellor, the University wishes to honour Mr. Andrew Steele with the degree of Doctor of Science Honoris Causa. Professor Mike Elliott, Director of the University's Institute of Estuarine and Coastal Studies, will now present Mr. Steele.
My Lady and Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, 2012 is the 50th anniversary of Rachel Carson's seminal book called Silent Spring, which first alerted us to global environmental problems. It's also the 20th anniversary of the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, the Rio Conference, also called the Earth Summit, which recommended that we all think global and act local. This has recently convened in Rio de Janeiro as Rio Plus 20, and even after 2 decades, the delegates and politicians are still emphasizing the slow progress and the need for action in many areas, especially deforestation and the associated problems of habitat loss, global warming, and greenhouse gases. It is against this background that I present the Honorary Graduate, Mr. Andrew Steele. Hull-born Andrew Steele retired from the Royal Navy after 13 years' distinguished service. During his forces career, he demonstrated great leadership on and off the field, having captained the Royal Navy Rugby League team for several years and participated in the Royal Tournament as a member of the Fleet Air Arm Field Gun Crew. As a keen sportsman, Andrew still enjoys a variety of sports and leisure activities. Accredited with a master's degree in business administration from the Sydney Graduate School of Management, Andrew has received awards for both e-commerce and management information systems. He was also the proud recipient of the Director's Award for All-Round Excellence in the MBA programme. It was as a social entrepreneur that his career would suddenly branch out to see him become a successful executive across a number of sustainable and green business portfolios. Born in 1970, the former pupil of the Andrew Marvell School in Hull now works in Thailand in the forestry, essential oils, renewable energy, and sustainable investment sectors. He is the chief executive of the Treedom Group of companies, including Asia Forestry Management Limited and its subsidiary Asia Forestry Distilleries Limited, Equitech Thailand Limited, and Treedom Investments Limited. Most notably, he is also the founder of the global charity PATT, Plant a Tree Today Foundation, with its roots in the United Kingdom, but operating across the world, with its branches in Southeast Asia and works and projects elsewhere. PATT works along major organizations such as the United Nations, the Thai government, and it's had support from multinational brands such as the Standard Chartered Bank, Mercedes-Benz, PepsiCo, Merck, Raymond Land, Six Senses Resort Management, and Crown Worldwide Group. His charity was the proud recipient of the UN Seed Award in 2009 because of his support for ongoing reforestation efforts globally. The SEED initiative is a global partnership for action on sustainable development and the green economy. It was founded by UNEP, UNDP, and IUCN at the 2002 World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg. SEED supports innovative, small-scale and locally driven entrepreneurships around the globe, which integrate social and environmental benefits into their business model. PATT also works to raise awareness of the global environmental issues, to campaign for better environmental practices, and to take action against deforestation and climate change by planting trees. It also provides funding for partner planting projects, sets up school tree nurseries and provides environmental education, This involves funding community development projects in rural communities centred on tree planting and reforestation, as well as providing environmental consultancy services. As shown here, Andrew's declared aim through his charity work is to help combat climate change and deforestation, and most notably is helping local communities who are reliant on the sustainability of those ecosystems to fight poverty. Finally, Andrew recently returned to the city to launch a global campaign as part of the Humber area's annual Business Week to plant more than 1 million trees in a fight against climate change and to help with the economic regeneration to alleviate social problems. Green City Hull is about helping businesses play a greater role in the city's growing green economy and renewable energy industry. This again admirably illustrates the think global, act local commitment of Andrew Steele. My Lady and Chancellor, I'm delighted today to be able to present Mr. Andrew Steele for the award of Degree of Doctor of Science, Honoris Causa.
In recognition of your major contribution to environmental issues, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, Honoris Causa. I confer in absentia the degrees listed in the official record on those graduands who have qualified and are eligible to receive their degrees but are not present. And it now gives me very great pleasure on all of our behalf to invite our latest most distinguished Honorary Graduate, Dr. Andrew Steele, to address the congregation.
Lady Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, distinguished guests and fellow graduates. I have to say, I'm not probably the first person to say this, but it's a great honour to be stood here to receive this award. And it did come as a complete surprise when I received the letter from the Vice Chancellor. As it was mentioned in the citation, I'm an East Hull boy that went out into the big old world. And it's great that I've been able to come back. My work has brought me back to Hull, and for that I've got to thank the university. I started out, and you guys probably won't remember this, but I started out on a youth training scheme in 1988 with the Yorkshire Electricity Board on a great amount of £27.50 a week. And it was in the early days, and then I joined the Royal Navy. But I never dreamed that my work would take me to a tropical paradise. It does have its perks, living and working in Thailand. Never mind bringing me back to receive a great accolade from the University of Hull. In the early days, I'd always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I never understood back then, as you guys probably won't understand now, where your life will take you. And I used to travel every day to Leeds, to the training centre in Manston Lane. And my entrepreneurial element came out there because the boys literally didn't have any money, and they smoked. So I used to roll cigarettes on the bus to Leeds every morning and sell them to them and then collect the money on a Friday, so I had my pocket money for the weekend. And so started my career as an entrepreneur. You see, I'd always had an eye for opportunity, but my concern for the environment and its links to social and economic development never really materialised till later in life when I was actually polluting the atmosphere, working as an expat in Sri Lanka on a 51 megawatt diesel power station. But I had two defining moments that I can recall that categorically changed the way I thought about business and the direction I was taking and the way I would take my life forward. I was lucky enough to have a full expat contract, and for those of you that dream of working overseas, that's a tax-free salary. The expat contract comes with all of the trimmings. And I was fortunate enough to have a house and a car with a driver. After 3 years in the post, I'd managed to increase the profitability of the power station year on year by 30%, and quite honestly, I was getting bored. So I undertook the Masters in Business Administration and completed that. And then I actually also set up a real estate company that my wife ran. It was my first real step into business as an entrepreneur. And I'd seen an opportunity because we were the first company to put real estate online in Sri Lanka. Now, I go back to the driver, and this is a defining moment. Manoj was previously a salesman, and he joined us, and he couldn't really speak a word of English. So we supported him with his English lessons, and within a short space of time, he could speak English. It was fantastic. But what was more important, that within the first year of setting up that real estate company, Manoj had actually concluded a sale, and he earned more money from that deal than he did working for me as a driver. Now, the first thing he did, which was quite sensible really, he went and bought his wife a gold necklace. Okay, very smart for you guys out there. Always keep the wife happy. But the second thing he did was buy a refrigerator. He was the only household in his village to have one. And as you sit here now and look back, really, it's something we take for granted. And it was at that moment I realized that we have all got the ability to change lives. And I'm really proud to say that Manoj is now a co-owner of Expat Homes, and 10 years on, is still happily running the business in Colombo in Sri Lanka. The second defining moment for me was travelling 7 hours from Bangkok to the Burmese border to work with an orphanage on the border to plant fruit trees so that they could have some form of sustainable supply of food. It was one of the first projects that the PATT Foundation had undertaken, and for me, what was endearing about this was my kids came with me. Lauren and Oliver were 2 and 5 at the time, but it was really heartwarming to see them rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands dirty to help these children who were victims of atrocities in their own country at the time. Now, the main thing I took from that was I noticed that these kids were happy. These orphans were happy. They didn't have any money. They actually didn't have any shoes, but they were happy. And I realized then that money doesn't buy you happiness. It's at that point that I saw the link between the environment and social and economic development. And my journey began really creating a group of companies that will follow triple bottom line principles of people, profit and planet, and working alongside our own charity to deliver these social and environmental economic programs throughout Southeast Asia. But running a charity is just as challenging as running a business. And I was often told to focus on one, the one that put money in my bank account and put food on my table. But I challenged that paradigm because I think I gave what is the most important thing we all have, and that's time. And it's the only thing that gets more valuable as you get older. So focus your time well on what you believe in. But as a few people in the congregation will know, fundraising is not easy. And it's very disheartening sometimes when your work is so valuable that yet you can't always attract the funding to support the projects that you want to support. Believe me, there are more projects than there are funding, and there's many worthy causes. And let's face it, trees don't exactly do a lot. They don't jump out and they're not exactly exciting. But they are actually the lungs of the planet, and they're the homes for thousands of creatures. And many villagers derive their incomes from collecting non-timber forest products from the forest. But I often felt as though I was Oliver Twist, going out with a begging bowl, saying, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" And you develop a thick skin, and you have to get used to rejection. And on the back of that, I was often asked, why? Why do you do what you do? And in the words of Sir David Attenborough, I actually looked back and thought, well, how can I look my grandchildren in the eye and say that I knew what was happening to the world and I did nothing? So I stepped up and I set about doing something. But I'll go back to my opening statement. To say I was surprised about receiving this accolade is an understatement. But it really is nice to know that your work is acknowledged and appreciated, especially in the city that I grew up in and I love so much. And I do hope that my kids can eventually come back to the university and study here, and hopefully support Hull's green ambitions with the Green City Vision. I mentioned I spoke to Professor Mike Elliott today that my kids potentially will come back here, but because they've got an affinity for dolphins and sharks at the minute, so I think marine biology might be their forte. But as an expat, I think I've got to do some negotiating on fees because I have to pay the full amount, I believe. But I want to leave you with a message really, as you guys are all about to embark on the next stages of your lives and start a career or continue your career. You've got to find your passion and you've got to enjoy your work. If you enjoy it, you become engrossed in it. You'll walk over broken glass to solve the problems that you believe in. And you'll wake up every morning wanting to run at the brick wall in front of you in the true belief that you will knock down that brick wall and overcome those problems. If you wake up in the morning and you're not willing to run at that brick wall, you're in the wrong job. So what motivates me to get up every day and keep running at these brick walls? Well, the main thing is when we're successful in raising funds is see all of the work come to fruition on the ground and see the projects materialize and our efforts rewarded. And we've got a major focus at the moment on a reforestation project in northern Thailand, working with the hill tribes, the ethnic minority groups, the Hmong and Lisu hill tribes, planting over 300,000 trees a year with the support of the Six Senses Foundation. And it's great for me to get out of an office and go and sit with villagers and talk to them, learn about their problems and find ways in which we can find solutions. But commercially, we also work in forestry, and we've recently launched the Asia Renewable Resources Fund, which is a Luxembourg-based forestry fund, and it's one of a kind. It will allow people to invest in commercial and sustainable forestry, but it will allow those investors to direct a portion of their returns to support the PATT Foundation's projects throughout Southeast Asia, and thereby alleviate my guys needing to do the Oliver Twist Act. So, as you leave today to embark upon your lives and your careers, remember that life is a roller coaster. It's not easy. You will have your ups and downs. But I want you to take away a few points of advice and ones that I hope will resonate with you as you go through your lives. Step up and stand up for what you believe in and find your passion. If you don't, you're in the wrong job. It's time for a change. It's not always about money. Although it's nice to have it, you do need to feed yourself. You have to be enamored in your work and to truly enjoy it. And for the business graduates here, you'll understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization. You need to put it into practice. Secondly, leave a legacy. It's not about achieving awards, but it's for the work that you do. However, it's great to be recognized for the work we've done by the university. And it's also certainly a proud moment for me and everyone that's supported me and my beliefs from the outset. So as an individual, look to leave your mark on society. And lastly, build a team. One man can win a fight, but it takes an army to win a war. I've got a great team around me that supports me in the work that we do, and together we've been able to achieve some fantastic things. It's not about one man. The key to success is putting the right people in the right roles. You don't play Wayne Rooney in goal, for example. So I'll leave you with one last question. In years to come, have a think about what your legacy will be. Thank you very much.